I have the opportunity to introduce my dear friend, Dr. Asher Chanan Khan. And Asher, I'm sorry because I didn't come up with a bullet list. I was talking to Sean. I was like, I don't even think I could pronounce all of Asher's bullet lists of all the things that he's done. So I'm going to sum up his accolades in a very simple way. He is the world's greatest cancer doctor. And I'm not exaggerating that. He is truly a world-renowned cancer doctor and has worked at Mayo and been the head of oncology. And we listed his bio, so you can go there and you can read all of those things. How I had the opportunity to get to know Asher was years and years and years ago. Next to Jesus, his greatest thing is his son Matthew. And if any of you know him, you know Matthew. And I had the opportunity to be Matthew's principal. And so through that, I got to know Asher. Fast forward several years later, we kind of parted ways and went different paths, and he joined LifeWork. So he was my very first year running LifeWork. He was in that class. And at the time, it was a moment in Asher's life that was very difficult. And so not only did I get to go through LifeWork with him, I got to walk through some very difficult things that Asher was walking through, which gave me the opportunity to get to know the more important things of Asher, which is his character. So although I could talk about all of his accolades, what sticks out to me about him is the character that this man has. And he is by far, the most intelligent man I've ever met in my life. And his intelligence is only matched by his humility. And so when you take that combination of somebody that is that intelligent and is so gifted, and you cross it with the humility that he has, you are presented with, in my mind, one of the greatest men in this city. Next to that is he's probably the greatest debater. And I love that because I love to debate. I will debate with anybody about anything, whether I know something about it or not. I'll just argue to argue. And most people just get tired of me and they walk away. But Asher engages. And so not that long ago, we were at the coffee shop, which here's this amazing man serving at the coffee shop next to homeless people. And he and I get into a debate, which leads to an argument, as it usually does with he and I, over all the lives that matter. So whether it was blue lives that mattered or black lives that mattered or all the lives that matter, in the heat of that time in life, he and I got into a debate. And it just kept escalating and escalating. And the next thing you know is we turn around and the coffee shop had emptied out. We scared everybody out. My husband left, Christy left, and there's Asher and I just going at it in the coffee shop. And what's amazing about it is when we're done with these awesome conversations that he and I get to have, we can hug each other, love each other, and walk away because of the shared faith that we have. And so it is my privilege to welcome my dear friend, Dr. Asher. 7 minutes.
Yeah, you almost made me cry. Thank you. Well, half of us are expected to have cancer. Let's start with that. How devastating is that? That's what the CDC, our government organization, says. So how many of you have actually had a comprehensive cancer evaluation? 1, 2, 3. You don't count. I'm a cancer geek. My whole life is about cancer. Sometimes a little bit too intimate. Not that I want that. 1.6 million people in the United States will be diagnosed each year with cancer. 600,000 will die. This is staggering. The cancer pandemic is real. And there's not much being done. Trillions of dollars spent, decades of cancer research already done, and still we have not been able to hold off this tsunami. So the question is, do we know why cancer happens? Do we know how to prevent it? Being the most technologically and medically advanced society on the planet, we have not been able to ward off this disaster. Cancer is now ready to brag as #1 killer in United States, let alone the rest of the world. God has called me many, many, many years ago to be a warrior in this particular battle. So is our science not good, or are we financially handicapped? Or are we investing dollars and time in scientists that are inept? Or is it simply a lack of authentic desire to cure this horrible disease? If we cannot cure, can we prevent it? Are there preventive measures that can be taken that all of you should be talking about going forward? Because the statistics are staggering. Tony earlier on mentioned a very interesting thing. He said, I want a place where there's no liquor. So let's start with that. If I take 2 drinks a day, my risk of cancer, 7 different cancers, increases. I become an elite member of US population that spends $250 billion on alcohol. $15 billion of those are spent in the state of Florida. And if you bring it down to our neighborhood, $200,000 a person are lost if I take 2 drinks and get cancer. Annually, $5 billion are lost in patients, in people who develop alcohol-related cancer. I'm not even talking about smoking yet. 40% of those dollars come from our pocket. They're taxpayers. Now, triumph over cancer, is it possible? The answer is yes, it is. Better coordination, better collaboration among our society here in Jacksonville is possible. The strategy is very, very simple. It's crisp, clear, 2-pronged. Prevention, which most of you didn't even raise your hand. Second is treatment and cure. Can we get there? The answer is yes. So 15 years ago in Boston, the city of Boston decided that we will invest in our healthcare assets and develop an economic engine that will drive healthcare in their city. Today, 15 years later, they have 430 new biotech companies. They have 40,000 jobs in R&D and 75,000 jobs in biopharma. Their economic impact is $12 billion a year on the city. And their annual wages in that sector have increased to $160,000 per person versus $32,000 in Jacksonville. In addition, they bring in $4 billion from NIH funding and the IPOs that each year they generate. And the final thing that they do is that they have the ability to touch 265 million people in the United States through inventions, through drugs that are discovered there. Earlier this year, me and my team, in collaboration with universities around town and healthcare facilities, decided we too can do that. We should do that. So we analyzed Jackson. We looked at our resources. We looked at the ports that are accessible, the 9 universities around, the 7 acute care hospitals, the 2 cancer centers around, the research facilities. And we found that we rate, by an independent entity, among the top 15% of the cities that can commercialize new inventions and new technologies to cure cancer. So here is, if this happens, what will happen to our city? If this economic engine is developed here as proposed in our grant to the National Science Foundation, it will result in 11,000 new jobs, 2 billion impact. And we had met regarding that a while ago. Final comment. Is that happening? Yes, that process has started. There are spin-offs from University of Florida. There's spin-off from Mayo Clinic and other centers that have started to do bioincubators and biotechnology research. A Christian-based biotech being an Alpha 2, working on personalized cancer vaccine and drug resistance. Imagine if you are a smoker. All you need is a vaccine and you continue to smoke. Not that I endorse. Imagine if you are high risk for cancers of the breast, cancers of the brain. Can you get a vaccine that would prevent it from occurring? The answer to that is yes, the technology is here in our city, and there are opportunities for the city to invest and grow through it.